Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is Guilty by Syntax Episode 9. So glad you could join us today. We're diving into something, well, really fascinating, how we understand, and maybe more importantly, how we talk to artificial intelligence. Our mission really is to take your sources, articles, research, maybe even just notes you've jotted down, and really unpack what it means to have an effective conversation with AI. Because, look, a lot of us, myself included sometimes, we still think of AI like a tool, yeah? Like a calculator. Or a fancy search engine. You type something in, it spits something out. But what if that whole idea is kind of flawed? And it leads to those moments, where things go wrong and we just call them tech glitches. But maybe they're not glitches at all.
That's exactly right. It's the core idea in the sources we looked at, a real shift in thinking. They argue AI is becoming less like a simple tool and more like a conversational interface, a dynamic one. And that changes everything. How we use AI, definitely, but also how we should be teaching AI literacy. The sources really hammer home the importance of things like contextual clarity, giving feedback, and keeping a certain rhythm going in these digital chats. It's much more give and take.
Okay, let's dig into that. There was this anecdote in the sources that really jumped out at me because I felt that frustration. It was about someone using Notebook LM. They had this prompt, right? Use it for weeks, worked perfectly, smooth sailing. Then, boom. Out of the blue, Notebook LM just says, Notebook LM can't answer this question, try rephrasing it. But here's the weird part. They hadn't asked a question. They just put in the next piece of data, same as always.
Yeah.
Totally confused them, like, is it broken? Did the system crash? But then they had this realization they hadn't given any feedback. No thanks. No, yep, that's right. No, keep going.
Yeah.
Just input, nothing. Then more input.
And that nails it. That's exactly what the sources were pointing to. It wasn't a technical glitch like a software bug. They called it a relational misfire in the human-AI loop. Now, the AI wasn't, confused emotionally. It doesn't have feelings. But behaviorally, it reacted to that missing feedback. Think of it like its programming is looking for certain cues, signals that the conversation is ongoing. When those cues aren't go, there's no explicit feedback, no clear structure moving forward. The programming kind of defaults to, okay, interaction over, stop signal received. So it really highlights that shift, doesn't it? From just expecting AI to execute a command to needing our active engagement to keep it going.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just what we type, but kind of how we're present in the conversation. Like our silence or lack of participation is actually sending a message, even if we don't mean it to. What kind of signals are we talking about?
Yeah, precisely. The sources really break down why feedback is so vital. AI interprets things like silence or a confusing conversational structure or just not getting those explicit signals of the end. A thumbs up icon or typing, that's right, or even just, okay, next, it interprets that as the end. The loop is closed. Again, it's not feeling ignored or anything. It's just how the algorithm is designed. It processes those behavioral patterns as data. Silence becomes a data point, meaning stop this process. It's not ignored. It's actively read as end of engagement.
That's actually pretty profound, but also really simple when you think about it. It completely changes the user's job, doesn't it? It's not just about writing a killer prompt anymore. It's about giving a better presence in the whole interaction. Makes me think of all those times I've gotten a rubbish answer from an AI, but useless, and just closed the tab. Turns out I was being digitally rude, or at least ineffective. The sources even mention simple things like typing, yes, that's exactly what I meant, thank you, or just please continue can be critical. Crucial for the AI to know, okay, we're still going here.
Exactly right. And that leads into this idea the sources call relational prompting. It's really moving beyond just thinking about prompts as these isolated one-off commands. Successful interaction, they argue, it's a dynamic exchange. It's ongoing, like building rapport almost. It's the whole back and forth. Input, response, and crucially that feedback step. And a key insight is that those little micro-confirmations, just an okay, next, or helpful, tell me more, they're just as important as your big initial question. It signals you're still engaged.
Right. And going back to that Notebook LM example,
yeah,
it wasn't just bad wording, was it? They described it as a failure in conversational rhythm and an incomplete engagement loop. That feels like a whole different lens. What does conversational rhythm even mean when we're talking to, code?
That's a great question, and it's central to this whole shift. Conversational rhythm with AI, it refers to the flow and pace you expect, like in a human chat, right? There are pauses, turns, signals that you're ready for the next bit. With AI, we often just expect an instant full answer, but if it's a longer interaction, multiple steps, the user has to consciously manage that rhythm. If you give input, AI responds, and then you just pause. Without signaling you want to build on that specific point, the AI might just assume that thread is done. So rhythm is about keeping that energy flowing, actively signaling, yes, let's keep this line going. It's the beat, not just the words.
And that sounds even more critical when you factor in AI memory or lack thereof. That's a big frustration point for users, right? Tools like Notebook LM, Gemini, they reset context all the time. They don't remember things session to session or even sometimes prompt to prompt like we do.
Exactly. They don't have that long-term or even reliable short-term memory across interactions. Each new prompt can potentially be a blank slate for the AI, which means there's a new skill we all need. Learning to, as the sources put it, rebuild and re-anchor the context with pretty much every prompt.
Rebuild the context. So like remind it what we were just talking about.
Sort of, yeah. It's not about retyping everything. It's more about consciously reminding the AI of the key points or the thread. So instead of just saying, now analyze this, you might say, okay, based on the summary about topic X you just gave me, now analyze this. Or if you step away and come back, picking up where we left off discussing point A and point B, let's now look at point C. It's about deliberately weaving that continuity, making sure the AI has the necessary grounding for the next step. That's a core part of this new AI literacy.
That totally reframes how we should teach this stuff. It's a big pedagogical shift. We need to focus less on just crafting the perfect single prompt and more on teaching the skill of sustaining these digital dialogues over multiple turns, re-anchoring them, guiding students, really, on how to reason with AI, reflect on its output, engage intelligently, getting beyond surface-level use. So the question in the classroom changes from how do I write a good prompt to something more like, how do I stay in this conversation productively?
And to help with that, the sources introduce some frameworks. There's the ACE, AI Conversational Engagement Framework, and the ACE on Engagement Analysis Framework, EAF. These aren't just academic jargon. They're practical tools, lenses to figure out why an interaction maybe went wrong instead of just saying, it glitched. These frameworks help us see, okay, maybe the engagement loop wasn't completed properly. Where did the rhythm break down? And they tested this stuff. They used something called VCAT, that's Validated Cognitive Assessment Toolkit, with over 150 students and educators. So it's grounded in observing actual human-AI interactions, seeing what works and what doesn't, when dialogues stall versus when they succeed.
Yeah, that's crucial. It's not just one person's idea or a single story. The sources really stress that these frameworks come from empirical data, that VCAT testing, plus lots of real-world observation. So we're talking about tested patterns here, not just guesswork. Okay, but I can anticipate some pushback, Questions the sources also tackled, like, isn't this just anthropomorphizing? Giving the AI human qualities it doesn't have? Or, come on, isn't this overthinking it? It's just a prompt design issue, surely. Or maybe that Notebook LM thing was just one anecdote. And also, well, duh, they don't have memory. Why expect them to?
Absolutely valid points, and the sources have answers ready. First, on anthropomorphizing. They're very clear. It's not about AI having feelings or consciousness. Zero. It's about understanding our interaction patterns with these language systems. How do we successfully navigate conversations with something that simulates language-based thought? The goal is better outcomes for the user. Is it prompt design? Yes, but specifically relational prompt design. It's about the structure of the engagement, the back and forth, not just fixing a word or two. An incomplete loop is the issue, the anecdote. Yeah, it's a starting point, a good illustration. But the broader conclusions, they're backed by those studies with students and educators. It's more than just one story. And the memory issue, that's not a criticism of the approach, it's the reason for it. Precisely because tools like Notebook LM and Gemini have limited context windows, we need this skill of constantly re-anchoring. If they had perfect memory, maybe our presence would matter less. So it's not overthinking. The sources frame it as intentional engagement design, crucial for teaching effective ethical use and avoiding misinterpretations of what AI can actually do.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So wrapping this up for you, the listener, what's the big takeaway? It seems the user's main job isn't just getting better answers out of the AI. It's about giving a better presence to the interaction itself. I love the analogies the sources used. It's less like operating a vending machine, put coin in, get snack out, and more like tending a delicate garden of dialogue. You need to nurture it, provide the right conditions, feedback, clarity for it to flourish. Or another one they used, being a skilled dance partner. You're not just shouting instructions from the sideline. You're in the dance, responding, leading, following, keeping the rhythm, adjusting, making it work together. It requires continuous active input.
Exactly. And that connects directly to digital literacy and responsibility, that consistent clarity, that active feedback. That's what keeps the conversation blooming instead of just fizzling out because the AI interprets our silence or ambiguity as, okay, we're done here. It really puts the onus on us to be intentional, to understand it's a dynamic process, not just a one-way command structure.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If getting the most out of AI really depends on us being consistently present, offering clear feedback, maintaining context, how might practicing that digital presence actually encourage us to be, well, more present, more intentional, and clear in our human conversations too? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.